So, welcome, and I'm Jon Manker,
And I'm Phil Eklund.
and we're going to talk about Pax Renaissance 2nd edition.
Yes, I'll talk a little bit about the Renaissance in overview. This is a really fascinating time in history because after such a long period of nothing but an endless succession of warlords, the Renaissance introduced something different. Different classes of people, different the rise of the merchant class, the rise of banking, the rise really of the modernity and the modern world. And so I wanted a game to try to show how history really did in one small area, Europe, beginning in the year 1460, in the game at least, came to be different. And I wanted to try to represent many aspects of the Renaissance, all aspects, the religious reformations, the trade with China, the trade routes, the voyages of discovery, and the art, which everyone might think of, but it's so much more than just the art. The inquisitions and the rise and fall of empires and the new republics. And all of this would later lead on to very unsteady legs, but to further things such as the Enlightenment and the rise of the West and capitalism and everything we know today. So this was the ambitious premise behind this game.
Yeah, and you had this premise also together with your son,
Yes.
Matt Eklund, who is co-designer.
Yes, he was co-designer. We spent a long period of development where the boulder or responsibility shifted between us. And
When did this period start?
oh, now you're gonna. Well, Lords of the Renaissance. This is 1990s, so probably it could be as early as 1993 or so. That's about when I was introduced to the books of Dorothy Dunnett. These are fiction books about a fictional banker hero set in the Renaissance. There's a series of about a dozen books, and they're really fascinating to show just how a banker could be behind the machinations of the Reformation, the printing press, the Columbus's voyage, and the great artists and empires and emperors. So, yes, Matthew my son would introduce a bunch of new concepts, and we'd try it, and it failed, and I'd try it, and we failed, and we went back and forth, but each time we got a little bit closer to the vision, a very short, fast game that encompassed everything important about the Renaissance.
Yeah, and short and fast. It's that's when you know the game, right?
Well, yes.
This is famous for being one of the more opaque game that you have done, and I would say that Matt has done also. And
opaque, at least in, well, what do I need to do to win? Victory strategies are not so obvious here. The actual playing of the game is not so difficult.
That's pretty straightforward. It's simple, as in many of the other PAX games. It's fairly simple. You can do
icon-driven
of a number of actions, and there are icons for stuff. And but there is very complex. So this is what we're looking at here. By the way, are portion of the cards. I would say roughly half of the basic cards. In this 2nd edition of Pax Renaissance, we will not only include these ones and the other half of these ones. We will also include all of the cards included that was part of the expansion that came.
Yes.
Like only a year after, half a year.
Yes,
year
the expansion cards.
And we will also include these are the expansion cards. here, and then we will also include the 4 promo cards.
Yes,
And,
or maybe 5.
4. Sorry, they are 5. And if it goes well with Kickstarter for this game, we will also include a bunch of new cards that you designed specifically.
Yeah,
for
about a
Kickstarter.
dozen new cards. There'll be 76 additional cards beside the basic set altogether.
Well, it will be
assuming that
we-
the stretch goal for the brand new cards is met.
Yeah. So anyway, but this is and it's card driven. So what I want to do here was really to zoom in. Maybe I hope this is a very big file, so might be a little slow. But zoom in on the cards for winning the game, which are here, victory cards, and these say inactive here. But on the other side, you can see. What this is how it looks from the start, and they're some of them a little simpler. There are 4 of them, but some of them a little complex to understand. How to
for
do.
instance, this East-West schism. This shows that a holy victory is not activated because the East and West are divided, and they're not seeing eye to eye. But conceivably, the Renaissance could have gone to a unification of the branches of Christianity, or unification of the branches of Islam, the Shia and the Sunni in particular, and thus achieve a holy victory, a unified religion for Europe and the Mediterranean. Another one down here is the Galley Age. The galleys are oar-driven and some sail-driven ships that can't really leave sight of land. But if you get away from the galley age, you can get to a globalization victory, whereby by the end of the Renaissance, you had leaders that were essentially world emperors. Because of the voyages of discovery and round ships, they were able to sail every corner of the world and claim it for their own in a colonial coup, as it were.
And these are made active one by one. So when one is active, then everybody can grab it. So the game gets more and more. The paths to victory becomes more and more.
Yes, more and more set. As the farther you go along and someone sees an opportunity and activates a victory, then everyone else is warned, and maybe they'll try for that victory or maybe try for their own victory.
Using that track.
Yes.
But then there is I think the opaqueness is that there's several steps involved in changing these and taking these, and also to fulfill them, and then knowing in the beginning the strategy of which of the cards should I invest in order to get to that point.
Yes, because these cards, there's no hidden information in the game. These cards are all openly available on a market that the bankers are going to be competing for, the best ones. This is a great deal of player interactions on the market, but there's also things you can behead, you can repress, you can send pirates, you can send the Inquisition, you can vote in republics or siege and go on grand campaigns. There are a lot of options depending on these very personal cards.
And the cards also are linked to certain areas on the map. And here is one area, England, for example, and there's a little icon here. Now, I should say these cards are the first edition cards, and we are working on the second edition. So the second edition will feature some things that we think will make the game, without changing anything of the game mechanics, will make it a little more accessible.
Yeah, the iconography overhaul. Do you have some views of what we've got?
It's here. So here's the suggestion for. This is not final in any way, sort of form, but this is anyway a suggestion for that. And if we look at, for example, just one of the cards here, the idea is to have all the iconography more more precise to where to. It's consistent.
Yeah,
consistent
each
playable.
icon has its own real estate, and you can splay the cards so all the relevant information is on the right.
And down here are things that is instants, which is not relevant once you play
the one shots are at the bottom, and those get covered up when you display the cards because they're only relevant when you first play it.
Yeah. But one important change is that there will be a map. So in the normal game, or no, not the normal game, the first version of the game, the map was a bunch of cards that you put out on the board, so that they you puzzle them together and they form Europe. You still have these cards, but you now put them on this board, where you also put the different other parts of the game. Here you have the unopened victory paths
or inactivated victories, and you flip them over. The artist made it so they look like little letters, so you actually open up. It looks like you may open up the victory in order to see, hey, okay, now we're no longer in the galley age. We're actually in the age of sail and round ships and exploring new worlds.
And there is a place on this board. This is the board as it's probably going to look or something like it. And here is the two tracks or the two market rows. And then you also
East
have
and West,
and then you also have the emperors here, which in this version, or this as we think of it now, there's two different important differences. First of all, they are smaller and square, so they are clearly
the kings and republics are on square-shaped markers, so they're allowed to be placed next to the map cards that represent their empire. In this facsimile, they're all the same, but in the final version, they'll each be the individual emperor that was reigning in that area in the year 1460 when the game begins.
Yeah, and that's where that area is also something we changed. So they are now placed next to the certain area where they.
This is a big convenience in the game from the first edition, because now you can see at a glance which emperors and kings are still unaligned and available. You can still try to marry into this family or...
and hopefully make it easier to plan whatever you want to do.
It also makes it possible if you repress things, if you repress knights or nobles or peasants in a kingdom. Now, even if the king is unaligned, they can still represent these repressed guys on their king token, something that wasn't available in the first edition because they weren't actually part of the matrix like they are here.
Yeah, and as I said, this is a prototype, a mock-up, or more, or almost. So some of these routes are still not in line with how they are supposed to look. But
sure. And you wanted to tell them about the third state?
Yeah, the third state. So one benefit of this is, first of all, it's faster to set up because the board is just there. And then we have the map cards, and in the normal game, or in the first version of the game, these cards... First edition, these cards were double-sided, so you could, at certain instances, change if they go from
medieval to theocracy.
Yeah, theocracy and back to pagan to
or pagan. Well,
so but they have two states, so you can flip them from one side to the other, and we still have the cards, but since we have the board, we wanted to make the board the starting state, and then the cards are two additional states instead of one, because you can put the card there if you want to change it, and then the card has another side to it. So the game now, each part of Europe now have three states instead of two, and that's
they could be, for instance, Reformation or Catholic or Islamic or just irreligious, a medieval state. So 3 of those 4 possibilities are represented in every nation, and this is a new feature of this edition, and the cards have been redesigned to take advantage of this.
Yeah, and the board as itself, normally we used to have cubes here, but they're probably going to become pawns, and pawns are the the players' tokens. The other tokens in the game don't belong to any players; they belong to the religions. So you have knights, you have rooks, and you have bishops, right?
Yeah, there'll be bishops as inquisitors. So you'll have many of the chess pieces.
And the board is she put the board and made the board into
a chessboard, sure.
To
So what Yoon said probably bears repeating, because in a normal war game, you're used to commanding armies, and you sweep, and maybe you can conquer one land after another and march in. But you're not representing military commanders here. You're actually bankers who are financing these things. So you have to get it out of your head that you own these armies. You're just influencing them, and the very next turn, someone else could be influencing them to do something nasty to you, like beheading one of your kings, or excommunicating your favorite bishop or something. This is all part of the ebb and flow of the banking world. During this time, the bankers were basically not nobility. They were commoners, just exceptionally clever, mathematically inclined commoners who managed to accumulate a lot of wealth, not from rich people, but mainly from poor people who were somewhat independent, that were that in times past might have been serfs, but now owned a bit of land and needed money to tide over hard times. These were safe loans for the bankers, because these farmers weren't going anywhere, and no one realized what vast fortunes could be made out of just the population at large. And the objective of bankers then, as in this game, is to try to avoid getting too much attention from royalty that could enforce a loan that could ruin the bank.
Yeah.
So the bankers are against each other, and they're trying to influence the Europe and the Mediterranean to be in the way that will be enhance their own livelihoods and profits, and by benefiting their customers and trying to stay away from the rapaciousness of certain nobles and kings.
Yeah. Here are some other card concepts we just want to show. This is a work in progress again, and these are even older concepts. But here's a test of 3 alternatives for the Emperor/Republic cards.
Yeah.
To be displayed upon the queens and still show the important information.
Yes, this used to be called the cruciform formation, just showing the royal couple, the king and queen.
Yeah. And in this one, it used to be that you put the card next to each other, and it took quite a lot of space on the table. In this case, you can display these, and they don't disrupt displaying. And it's also, when you display them upon each other, it still keeps the important part. So you can display the king and queen here, and then you can display it together with other cards on top of them, and keeping the important information to the right. But we haven't really decided if they're going to go on the up or the down or whatever.
All right. So,
and I wanted to show one more thing here. So here are the components. I think we talked about the most of the things. We're not sure about the plastic inlay. We haven't decided, so don't take this as anything certain. But these are some plans we have for the cards.
Yeah, I hope the metallic coins goes.
Yeah,
I think that'd be cool to have Florin-looking Florins.
Yeah, we want.
I think that's a stretch or something, or deluxe or something.
It's a deluxe kit that we will have in the Pledge Manager, if it's economically viable. If it's enough backers, we will probably opt for this, because it's we need to make sure that we can sell at least a bunch of them, because you have to order a set amount minimum and so on. So we'll see, but we are quoting for it. So we'll see what they will cost and get that information, and then hopefully we'll add it to the Pledge Manager. The rules are at the current state living rules, and as usual, everybody who's interested in this can go to our webpage Ion SMG and follow the links in the download section, and then come to here, and if you go here following this link, you can read all the rules as they are being designed, and you can make comments. That Phil did himself here actually, but anybody who has the link can make a comment here.
That's right.
And then we try to
if something that bothers you or needs more explanation and the like, this is actually for the second edition, these living rules.
Yeah,
there's a link for the first edition in the first paragraph of this. So if you have the first edition and you need the living rules for that, it's up there.
Yeah. So these are, and there's also still marked. It will be changed later on, but it's still color coded where the changes are. So if you are a fan of this game, have played it before, considering buying the new version or buying the version for someone else, because the game has been out of print for quite some time.
Yeah,
so
there's quite a clamor for it.
Yeah, and
it's going for a pretty penny on Amazon and the like.
It's true, and we don't even have a copy ourselves here. Actually.
Yeah, you'll forfeit a lot of ducats to get a copy of.
There's just
gold ducats.
Gold ducats. Yeah. So anyhow, that's that, and here's what you can here you can see all things about the game.
All right.
I think that's what we wanted to tell. Was there any special card you wanted to tell anything about?
No, I think that's all.
That's all. Yeah. So this is how the game is played. We hope to maintain the game's spirit, still make it more accessible for everyone, and at the same time, make it also more a beautiful game. Actually, for
it is a lot prettier,
and by doing so, make more find it, and they are playing it, because those people who pull through the threshold, there are many who are devoted to this game. They really, when they start playing it, they played it a lot. And
Alex Serban, God, he's played it hundreds of times, 500 times.
And there are many others, and many people come up to us and talk about this game and think when they finally wrap their head around it, it really catches on and it becomes an excellent experience. As you said, in the beginning, your ambition was to make a pretty fast game that still encompassed the whole.
Yeah, everything that I found important about Matt and I found important about the game.
Yeah, and I think
about the era, about the period.
When you know the rules, which I won't lie, it will take a few hours to learn the rules. It will take a few playthroughs before you get the hang of it, so to speak. So be prepared for that. But we are also collaborating with Heavy Cardboard, the YouTube channel. So they make playthroughs for. I think they
do a great job.
They already did one for this one. So you can go to Heavy Cardboard and see their links for it and see for yourself what they say about the game. And that's a great help if you want to learn the rules.
Yeah, many people say this is their favorite PAX game, and this is, or it's in their top 5 games of all time. This is really a surprising sleeper hit here from. There's been attempts to do the Renaissance before, but never anything like this.
No. All right. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.